Okay, good morning, Chavra. Today is the 23rd day of Adar. Oh, I have the wrong Chayinu. Excuse me. Technical difficulty. We'll fix that up pretty soon. Okay, we got the new one right here. Today's the 23rd day of the month of Adar. Still in the month of Adar. Marbin B'Simcha, Chavra. And it's a new week. And we're going to begin chapter 37. Overview of chapter 37. This previously described messianic utopia. It's going to be beautiful, wonderful, special, just out of worldly, where Hashem's infinite light is manifest on earth, is in fact affected by divine design, of course, by virtue of our labor in these times. So how we conduct ourselves today will have a great effect on how everything's going to play out in the future. For in truth, each mitzvah is a microcosm of the same achievement, introducing godliness into a previously foreign entity. This is especially so when it comes to action-based mitzvahs. So that's what Perek Lamed Zayin is going to talk about. So the ultimate perfection in the times of Mashiach and the time of Tchias HaMesim, the resurrection of the dead, meaning the revelation of the godly light in this physical world, is dependent on our actions and our divine service throughout the period of Galus. Unlike the aforementioned revelation at Har Sinai, which was initiated by God. Everything that happened there was God initiated and God given and God performed. We just stood there in awe, in shock, in wonder. But when it comes to end of days, that's going to be our duty now to pre-plan and fulfill the prophecy, how things are going to play out. We have a part in it. You're shaking the table. When you shake a little bit, it's going to shake the camera. What's the reward of a mitzvah? It's the mitzvah itself that causes and creates its reward. Schar mitzvah mitzvah. By performing the mitzvah, man draws down the revelation of the infinite light from above downward. Remember all these things that we're talking about. When you do an action-based mitzvah, you draw down the godly light onto your head. When there's 10 people davening together, onto the community and congregation. Drawing down godliness into this physical world, meaning in an object which had heretofore been under the dominion of Klippas Nega, and it received its vitality from this Klippa. You take the hide of a cow, the epitome of, just a earthly, mundane thing, an animal, and you turn it into tefillin, and you say a blessing, and you daven with it. Now you raise it up to spiritual heights it can never reach without your investment and involvement. So all pure and permissible objects by which the act of the mitzvah is performed. So by performing the mitzvah, we draw down the light of Hashem upon the object with which we perform that mitzvah. And obviously, something that is not kosher and not to be utilized, that has no possibility or capability to being uplifted and being a vessel for bringing down godly light. So what are some of the examples that we can use? Going klafat tefillin, mezuzah, v'sefer Torah. The example is the parchment of the tefillin, the parchment for the mezuzah and the sefer Torah, which must be made of the skins of permissible kosher animals. You could make tefillin out of deer or goat. The problem is that the skin is much thinner. So the chance of it ripping, breaking through is much greater. That's why they use cow, because it's thicker and it holds up a lot longer and better. The Maimon I was saying is our sages said the work of heaven, meaning mitzvah objects, only that which is pure and permissible to eat may be used. So it has to be a kosher animal in order for us to make parchment to use for mezuzah, tefillin, sefer Torah, and the like. And similarly, when we take an esrog, it has to come from not orla, as we'll soon see in a footnote. The forbidden fruits of a tree's first 3 harvests. So the first 3, it's not even first 3 years, but it's, for argument's sake, we just say the first 3 years of a brand new tree. We don't use the fruits of that tree. So you can't take an esrog and say, oh, I'm doing a mitzvah, when it's forbidden to take that particular fruit. Okay, here we have a little footnote. The Alter Rebbe explains. The arla is of the 3 completely unclean klippas that can never ascend into holiness, as is written in its Chaim. So therefore, fruit, which is arla, deriving its vitality from these klippas, cannot be elevated by having a mitzvah performing it. And similarly, any mitzvah whose performance involved a transgression, chas v'shalom, since the sinful act received its vitality from the 3 completely unclean klippas, the resulting mitzvah cannot elevate it. So you can't take something that came from sin somehow and say, oh, I'm going to do a mitzvah with it. It has to be pure. You can't steal money and say, yeah, but I'm going to give it. You can't pull a Robin Hood, right? I'm going to steal from someone else and I'll give it to tzedakah. That guy doesn't need it anyway. Can't do that. It has to be pure. You have to earn it. And performed, however, with pure and permissible objects, the mitzvah elevates these objects from klippas nega to holiness, to be united with Ein Sof, as the Alter Rebbe continues. When one fulfills Hashem's mitzvah with these objects, the vitality within them ascends and is dissolved and absorbed into the blessed Ein Sof, the eternal light of Hashem, which is Hashem's will, that is clothed within the mitzvah. For in a mitzvah, there's no concealment of Hashem's countenance whatsoever to hide His light, preventing the object from being absorbed in His light. As stated earlier, whenever the eternal light stands revealed, there's no separation from Hashem. Everything is united with Hashem. In this case, the object, which the mitzvah representing revelation of the will of Hashem is performed. So the Alter Rebbe discussed and has discussed the effects of a mitzvah on the object used in the performance of the mitzvah. Now he's going to talk about how the mitzvah affects the Jew's animal soul when he does a mitzvah with this particular object. Similarly, similarly, the power of the vitalizing animal soul, the nefesh habahamis, which is clothed in the bodily limbs of a person who performs the mitzvah, likewise clothes itself in the deeds of the mitzvah. Who's doing the mitzvah? Me, my godly soul, right? But also my animal soul, my arm, my eyes, my mouth, my feet, bringing me to shul. So thereby, thereby it descends from the klipa to be absorbed into the holiness of the mitzvah, which is His will and is nullified within the blessed and safe light. The Alter Rebbe now goes on to say that those mitzvahs involving speech alone likewise affect this elevation of the animal soul, even though here the animal soul's power is not brought to bear in the performance of any mitzvahs. So you think we're talking about just hands and feet, but what about speech? What about learning Torah? Reciting the Shema prayer and the like, the animal soul's power is elevated to holiness. And it's very important that we say Shema. It's a mitzvah that I say Shema every day. The best way to do the mitzvah is to wake up at dawn and say the Shema just before sunrise. Just after sunrise is even better, and then you daven, right? I'm sure Nati does that because he learned that in Shulchan Aruch. Not the only because your father pointed at you. It's his fault. And even to daven shachris, which we'll get into. But the earliest you could do it when it starts to get light out, and then there's sunrise. That's the best time to do it. So you get up early, you do the mitzvah. And by the way, there's a certain time period where you cannot do and fulfill that mitzvah anymore, which is according to most opinions, the first 3 hours of the day. and according to some, even up to the 4th hour of the day. The way the day is spread out is the day is split up into 12 hours from the time the sun rises until the sun sets. And obviously it's going to fluctuate. Those hours are not going to be 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. It's going to fluctuate based on when the sun rises and the sun sets. So the first 3 hours in the winter is going to be different than the first 3 hours of the summer. So we have to make sure to fulfill our biblical obligation to say the Shema within the first 3 hours, and preferably at the earliest possible opportunity. We still have time now, right? Because what time is it today? What's the cutoff? What does it say? Okay. The point is that we're verbalizing the mitzvah, right? If it's a mitzvah min ha-Torah, what about some, according to some opinions, this Shabbos we read Parshas Para, you're not even saying anything, you're listening. You need your ears to be a part of that mitzvah. You need your feet also to get you there. But really, you need to listen to certain things. You listen to the Megillah, you listen to the sound of the shofar. So these are organs that you don't feel it's an action, something that's happening. I'm just adding this, by the way, it doesn't say it in here, but the point is that you're still doing a very important special mitzvah. Even though they do not involve actual physical action, which is under the dominion of klipas nega. So when it comes to Torah, it's an accepted principle that thought is not a substitute for speech. You can't just think the words that you're learning, you have to say the words. If you're obligated to say the Shema, it's not enough to just think the words. You have to say the words every morning. Shema Yisrael. Levi's about to say it. Say it loud. Ready? You're fulfilling a mitzvah. So he's not fulfilled the duty of the Torah study, the davening, etc., unless he actually utters the words with his lips. The kaimalon, the kimas spos of have maisa. It's also accepted that moving one's lips constitutes action, and such action that denotes likewise stems from the vitality of the klipas nega that is nourished by the animal soul. You need energy and strength because you're taking a breath. It's coming, the air is coming through your lungs. You know, people that are weak in the hospital, they can't even move their lips. They can't take a deep breath. It's very hard for them to daven. You know, maybe there's a minimal amount that they could or should do, but that's, you know, when we have the ability to, we have to. The divine soul cannot express itself with the physical lips, mouth, tongue, and teeth, the instruments of speech, except by way of vitalizing animal soul, actually clothed in the organs of the body. So the brain, we call the brain like that's where the nefesh elikis stems from. But when it comes to speech, when we use the teeth, the tongue, the mouth, the palate, the throat, the breath, there's a lot of physical action involved, even though we don't look at it like, when you use your hand, that's action. When you use your mouth, it's not action because you don't feel like it, but you are doing something. The more forceful one speaks, words of Torah and prayer, the more of the animal soul's energy he introduces and clothes in these words. Thereby he converts more of the energy of the klipa to holiness. So there's luck. They're saying Shema like this. And there's Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. You're using more energy. You're using your lips more, your mouth more, right? You can enunciate more with your lips. Right? So we got to do it more forcefully. This is the meaning of the verse. All my bones shall declare. That means you're putting all your kaiches into it. This is why our sages have said, if the Torah abides in all 248 limbs, it is preserved in your memory. Otherwise, it's not. Because when you do something over and over and over, it becomes a part of you. But if you're not putting all your energy into it, not so much. Ki hashikha hi meklipas aguf benefsha chiyunas abam is shehein God forbid, when forgetfulness in matters of Torah stem from the clip of the body and the vitalizing animal soul, derived from klippas nega, which is sometimes absorbed into holiness. So when it is absorbed into holiness, there's no longer any cause for forgetfulness. Hainu, kish matish koichon umachnis kol koichon b'kedushas haTorah oitfila. This is accomplished when one weakens the power of the animals, the body and the animal soul, applying all their strength, not in frivolous, mundane things, but rather applying all their strength to the holiness of Torah and prayer. And this then is the meaning of the aforementioned quotation: when one involves the energy of all his 248 limbs in the Torah to preserve in his memory, for the klippa that causes one to forget has been weakened. And Chavra, now you know why. This is part of the reason why you shuckle when you daven. This is why people are throwing their arms around. You don't want to get behind somebody when he's really involved in a shtickle gemara, because you might get your eye poked out by accident. We use it. You really get into it. If somebody's walking by and you swing your arm, you might punch them in the face. Right, Levi? So anyway, the point is, and that's, what's the matter? It's taking away. So we put all of our energy, when we say the Shema, we verbalize the words. You can even get your eyes involved by looking and making sure you focus on every word. Your brain obviously is involved. Everything that you could do to bring that mitzvah to life by animating your body. The takeaway is the reward for your performance of a mitzvah is just that, the performance of the mitzvah. When you do a mitzvah, you connect to Hashem. Right, Gabby? So you connect to Hashem. That is the reward. What more do we want? We want to connect to Hashem. That's the ultimate reward. We just revealed the divine in that act. We revealed Hashem. And that item used for the commandment, whether it's the tefillin or the sefer or whatever it is, and we brought the world's purpose one step closer, which is the coming of Mashiach. So we're actually laying the foundation, laying the groundwork for the ultimate purpose of creation, which will be the times of Mashiach, that wondrous time when first there will be tremendous peace and harmony and unity and love, and it will be a wonderful time. And then will be the most wondrous out-of-worldly experience by Tchias HaMesim, when all of those who have passed on will return once again to unite with all of Hashem's creations and with God Himself. All right, everyone have a good day. Thanks, Leif. Everyone have a good day and have a good Vach. Have a good week. We'll see you soon. Don't forget, we're still in the month of Adar. Marbim is Simcha.